questions that has come up over this conversation this week is really, what does integrated media mean for the Hershey Company? So really what that means for us is that we look at our campaigns and we create an approach that leverages multi-channels to solve a business problem. And that's really what this case study, and that's kind of how I set it up, is for Tastemade and ROLO. It's really taking the business challenge that we had from a portfolio standpoint and how can we deliver sweet results that have a significant impact to the business. And really this partnership, what it helps and what I hope you guys take away from this is that partner solutions that think beyond their platform and how we can approach it multi-channel can be a very powerful connection and provide really significant results, for both partners, the business as well as the platform. So that is the overall hope that you have from a takeaway here. So the situation that we had for ROLO for last year is we had a shift in investment from first half to second half. So we had some funds. We wanted to look at how can we really bring the ROLO brand to life in this really critical time for the business. Seasonal baking is a big thing, and they wanted to drive that occasion with the consumer. One of the challenges that we have, though, is that our LTV, STV assets really talk about the consumption, that individual enjoyment, and really didn't highlight that hands-on approach to the baking experience. And then when we looked at our social assets really kind of showed a finished product. They're great, they highlight it, but one of the biggest takeaways that we had from like a consumer lens is when you look at the cookie on the left, the consumer doesn't know, is that a finished product that I can find in the cookie aisle, or is that something I need to make? We do know like the ROLO Pretzel Delight and the pretzel sandwich, those are things that we tend to find in our house iconically during that season, but it's not top of mind of like, how do I make it? So having that interaction where the consumer can see that hands-on experience in the baking element is something that we were really lacking within our assets. So I'm gonna show you our ad, because this is kind of what our partners had as they were thinking through how are we gonna go to market.
I appear to be rolling out of control. All this rolling reminds me I have rolos. Rich chocolate candy, creamy caramel, so delicious. ROLO and ROLO Dark with salted caramel.
So as you can see, great product. You know, it really does have that takeaway. It's great for the fit for LTV, but does not talk to that occasion. So we really needed to solve for that. So our ask for our agency was to really think differently as we go into this holiday season. How do we go bigger? How do we drive that excitement for the brand? But we didn't want it to feel like a one-off. That was the biggest takeaway and what we were really trying to drive when we went to market for potential solutions. Like, how is this gonna live outside of your channel and or reinforce that occasion that we're trying to drive within the season? So we really needed that integration across channels. So the requirements, and the fonts changed, the requirements that we had, it had to be a reputable partner in the baking space. So we didn't have it or want it to be like a one-off with like a woman's or a lifestyle magazine. We really wanted to have that connection there. It had to drive scale to drive awareness, so we had to be able to have lots of impressions within that partnership. We wanted to extend it beyond just their platform, which I've noted. And then the other thing is the reinforcing the ease of baking with ROLO. So we don't want to create a barrier. So when you think of it from a baking food category, we don't want the recipes to be an epicurious. We want it to be tangible, something that the everyday baker can look at and replicate. And even if it's just taking inspiration, which I believe our recipes that we developed with Tastemade do, take that inspiration and provide your own twist based off of where you are in the baking category as a consumer. So we looked at multiple partners. I believe there was over 8 that we looked at for this potential integration, and they each came to us with a different offering and a different approach to how they solve it. We had one, so Discovery came to us, and their solution was, how about some interactive ads? We can highlight all the different recipes within your portfolio that are across Hershey land, and that's great, but it doesn't kind of give us that broader reach and upper funnel piece that we needed. So that was part of why that wasn't considered for this activation. We also looked at Food Network, great show integrations, but again, limited with how we could leverage those assets or expand that usage. We also looked at Peacock, and the offering there was an engagement ad. As you looked at what our current asset is, some of our engagement ads probably wouldn't perform well, or there would be a lack of continuity. So said differently, think of a CTV L frame. We would have that guy rolling down the hill, but a CTA for a recipe. It wouldn't be congruent. So how do we make it be impactful and powerful for the brand? We also looked at Kelly Clarkson, great fit. We've used her for the Hershey portfolio for other activations, but in this case, it was still very limited from a scale perspective as well as an extended usage. So that would have been an integration as well as some social assets that would just be like reposting or resharing. So limited usage is kind of what is the main theme as we looked across all of these partners. Delish, great. They actually extended it to include some programmatic as well as social while developing the recipe. So we had that recipe element, but it was still very lower funnel and people that kind of were already in the know from that channel perspective. And that kind of gets us where we netted out, which is we ended up with Tastemade, and we actually did have an integration with the Today Show. We married the two kind of to get both points, that broad awareness, the assets that we needed to have that cross-channel and cohesive campaign for the ROLO brand. The Today Show was great. We did a recipe segment that had 2 different recipes. One included Rolos within cinnamon rolls, which is a great twist. And the person that they had brought in for it was a great baker. She was known for her pies, so we love that she put a different spin on it beyond pies for us. And then Tastemade, really it was a partnership that we did, or a sponsorship that we did with Baking the Holidays with Mia Starr. So I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of this. We'll fade it down, but just kind of give you a look and feel of what they put together for us.
Hi, I'm Mia Starr. Today I'll show you 2 fun and fast recipes that I love to make for the holidays using ROLO creamy caramel and chocolate candies. So grab a bag and let's bake the holidays with ROLO. First, we're going to make ROLO sweet and salty caramel brownies. I have sugar, flour, cocoa powder, chocolate chips, salt, and powdered sugar. Now I'll set this aside to mix together my wet ingredients. I'll add melted butter, 2 eggs, and vanilla extract. Then whisk to combine. To finish the batter, I'll add my wet ingredients to the dry and plop. Now time for the best part, which is to add a ROLO to the center of each brownie bite. Today I'm using the classic ROLO, but the dark chocolate salted caramel ROLO would also be delicious in this recipe. I'm gonna pop these in the oven, and while they bake, I'll show you how to make a quick and easy caramel. First, I'm gonna add the butter, brown sugar, and evaporated milk. It's been 3 minutes, so I'll take it off the heat. Look how yummy and luscious that looks. After the brownie bites and caramel have cooled, we're going to top the brownie bites off with this delicious caramel and a pinch of sea salt. Now I'll show you how to make ROLO trifle jars.
So
I love this
I'm not going to make you watch both recipes. It is a 2-minute
package
segment,
in
but at least
for
wanted to give you a quick
trifle
overview.
jar, I also
So
need to
this
whip up
partnership was
quick
really
honey
great.
whipped
We had an
cream. I'm
integration
gonna
within
add
the
some heavy
program,
cream, some honey,
which is the
then a
2-minute
pinch of
segment that
salt
you're
to
seeing
balance out
here.
the sweetness.
But beyond that, we
Now that
also
the whipped
had
cream is
an
ready,
ad
let's make
that
our trifle.
ran.
Start
We
with
had a lot
cake
of social
pieces,
assets.
add honey
And I'll
whipped
actually
cream.
flip over to what those looked like. So that partnership provided us 4 everyday recipes that we were able to use across our social channels, so our own channels. And we also got 2 seasonally relevant recipes, which were what was featured on the show. Within that, we had a bunch of assets that we could leverage. We had photo assets, video assets, and what we had then looked at from a brand perspective is like, how do we leverage that? The other thing I wanted to note here that also made this really impactful is partnering with our internal web team. So we worked with them to really understand what are consumers looking for when they're on our Hersheyland website to help inform the recipes that we decided to go to market with. We knew that it had to be easy and or easy to replicate based off of your skill level as a baker. So that's kind of why we leaned more into the brownie segment, the cupcake segment, and the trifle jars. We did kind of have a few like higher touch recipes, which would have been that Rolo dip that you see there, and then there was also a tart that we did. Tart was a seasonally relevant. This started around Thanksgiving time, so we wanted to have a pie element within it. But the overall takeaway is work and understand what are consumers looking for to have that inform how you go to these partnerships. So that way you're making a very powerful asset that's relevant to the consumer, but also relevant to the business and the occasion that you're trying to drive. So this is how it came to life. We took all these assets and then we leveraged it across channels. So we had the STV buy with our Tastemade partnership. We developed this hub alongside of our Hershey Land team. They were wonderful to work with. Not only did it host our Tastemade assets, it hosted our Today Show elements as well. We had that vignette ad that helped to drive awareness for baking with the holidays. It incorporated a QR code. We saw great success with that of 1.2 thousand clicks. Not a significant amount, but the fact that we are seeing consumers take action, that also overall reinforces some of what you guys as a business are trying to drive with these kind of higher engagement ads, these QR codes in the L frames. It's trying to get that consumer to see value and take action, and that action really helps to reinforce that consumers do see value in recipes, and that is what's helping to drive the Rolo business forward. We also had the assets that we leveraged across Meta, so Instagram as well as Facebook, and then we also utilized them on Pinterest, which is a great fit just in general when it comes to that baking and food occasion. What I loved about this is they actually saw significant performance with a 5.2 time benchmark for the actual video completion rate. So I think of that as a very powerful interaction, that taking those consumer insights and also making a great asset is really important. The last thing I kind of wanted to reinforce here too is how are these different than what we had previously? So when we go back to what we had previously, a lot of it was a finished product. In this case, the video assets had the hands-on pans action, which reinforced that consumer actually taking the action to develop and or make the recipe for themselves. So that was the biggest difference, but we really loved how it came across holistically for the campaign. That says we do have some learnings, so we'll kind of talk through that. So results. Overall, we saw great brand lift. So we worked alongside of Tastemade to do a brand lift study to kind of understand that consumer mindset from the campaign. We saw a 26% lift in that brand perception. They do see Rolo as something that is easy to elevate their baking. So that really came back to that brand message that we were trying to drive, that ease of use and elevation of what you could make at home. We also saw a 22% lift in purchase intent, which is wonderful. And that will take me to our business results, which I'm sure you guys want to know. What I will caveat here, it was not just a Tastemade campaign. We had a lot of great partners in market at this time, and it is all boats rising with the tide. And I think that this really kind of shows that beyond just having the great assets also shifted and lifted what we did on social from a performance level. We had a lot of great partner support in our overall campaign. So wanted to caveat that. But we had a great lift in household penetration, 10 points, lift in repeat buyers, 3% increase in dollar sales. What I'm most proud of is our ROI went up 64%, and we had a 35% lift in effectiveness. What that means to me, though, is that these premium placements do provide a lot of value for our brands. By elevating them within this environment, we're able to elevate how people walk away with the brand and then drive that consideration and purchase intent. So overall, very successful from a business perspective, very successful from a partnership perspective. But it really takes a lot and a holistic view of how we come together to create something super powerful. We also have utilized this to help drive continued success. So we are looking to repurpose or re-execute similar things in the future. What I will say is This year is a little different. We have a lot of business priorities that have shifted. So one of the questions I'm sure is in the room is, are you replicating it for this year? The answer is we're not doing a one-to-one replication of it. We are doing some offshoots or similarities with it. So we do have some partnerships with Food Network that we've been activating, and we'll see come to life for the ROLO brand in the near future. It's okay. That said, we also had some business priorities. So we have seen some downshifts from a ROLO prioritization, but ROLO is still a great and impactful part of our business, so super excited for how it works out. The lessons learned here, though, is making sure that we're extending our usage and negotiating that additional usage up front. What I mean here is they gave us a ton of assets, but from an aspect ratio, so I'm a very detail-oriented person, some of the placements just didn't fit right. So we didn't have any 4x5s or 1x1s, so it really kind of limited what we could do in feed. So a lot of our videos were relocated to stories and reels. By ensuring that we get that or have the resources available to remix that 9x16 to those other placement sizes is really helpful because we'll be able to reinforce that through those additional placements. Considering OLV or other programmatic opportunities, so this video commercial that they created, wonderful. It only lived on STV, and all these assets can only live on social. So giving us one other channel to kind of get that down funnel activation would be really helpful from a campaign standpoint. And then lastly, if you are in a seasonal-based business, which this was predominantly seasonal, look at 2-year usage rates so that way you can test and see how it performs year over year. Great results first year, not as knowledgeable for second year. And then lastly, my biggest takeaway, and this is only relevant to those in the food category, is test your recipes. So great partner. One of the things is that we developed the recipes in South America. Appreciated that, great production, but we weren't able to replicate some of the recipes in the US. And where that comes into play is consumers will go to our website, they'll make the recipe, and then if they have problems with it, they reach out to our kitchen. So we do actually have a Hershey kitchen that will go create recipes, and then they troubleshoot it. So in this case, they troubleshooted these questions that we had from consumers and weren't able to replicate it. So then that devalued that recipe for us, not in like a, it sounds really negative, but not in a negative way, but it's just a learning. So making sure that you have enough time in your planning process to have that review, have that checks and balance, so that way we have a great consumer experience on the back end as well. And then I think that answers what I would do differently. So is there any questions?
Stephanie, thank you so much. Stephanie, how much of your ROLO promotion is focused around like the baking aspect versus eating the individual candy?
From a media standpoint?
Yes.
I would say within a traditional buy, because a lot of it is LTV, STV, and that is the asset that we have. I would say probably 40% is that individual occasion, and then the 60% is that baking.
Yeah. So I imagine you guys have a pretty busy time coming up with Halloween, yeah?
Yes, that's a whole different brand segment, but yes, this is our Super Bowl season, so super excited for the Halloween season, and I am super proud of our team at Hershey and what we've put together. We have a lot of similar and amazing integrations with partners like Tastemade. Well, not Tastemade's not in the Halloween mix, but similar STV, CTV partners, so we're really excited to see how that comes to life.
Questions for Stephanie?
Hi, Stephanie. Lauren from Dish Media. Super straightforward question. What measurement partner did you utilize for this campaign?
Ooh,
Maybe not straightforward.
yeah. I don't remember if it was Nielsen or who was leveraged for the brand lift study from a Tastemade side. I'd have to check on that. From the business side, we utilized MMM for all those metrics and or IRI.
Hi, for the landing page, oh, sorry, Julia from Electronic Arts. So I wanted to ask about the landing page experience that you pointed everyone into. Is that something that you guys like built in-house? Did you use an agency for that? Did you do like third-party landing pages as well to kind of emulate the experience? Like, how did you guys build that part out specifically?
Sure. So we have an in-house team that is responsible for kind of the planning and strategy for our Hersheyland website. They work alongside of a regional partner that helps to build that out. So in this case, they took a lot of the brand standards and our CMS template, and we're able to lay it out based off of the direction that I worked alongside of them with. So it was a collaboration of both our in-house team as well as our agency partner that does the build. And it is I'll call it a shift internally from like a media and collaboration with the web team to help create these holistic places for the consumers to end. We have started to do that a little bit more with some of our activations that are getting more integrated and cross-brand.
Thank you. Alex from Good Apple. Hi. I love that you were proactive and answered all the questions from yesterday up front. Like, I am impressed. You're like, no one can answer this. I've got it. But my question is, was there anything about the results that surprised you that you weren't expecting?
I wasn't expecting the lift to be as high. Traditionally, when we look at an ROI, and I'll call it our baseline goal, is it would be great if it's a 5% lift in ROI year over year. So to have such a significant ROI lift is really impressive to me. And I think along that side, when we look at like the step down into the channel, it really reinforced the social element because social had a significant lift because of having the variety of creative, that hands-on pans type activation, so reinforcing that bacon occasion. So while it's not surprising, it tells us that like how we think about it or how we're going strategically about it is the right way forward, and it allows us to make sure that we're moving in that direction moving forward as well. Yeah.
We have time for one more question. Anybody? Going once, twice? Stephanie, thank you so much.
Thank you.